Webinar. We're going to be talking about accompanying partners of international students today. If you do have any questions after this webinar, you can definitely feel free to send us your inquiry through the questions and answers dialog box, and we will take a look at it and respond to you within 24 to 48 hours. By the way, my name is Ingrid, and I am going to be your presenter for today. There are various support systems in Ontario for newcomers. Most of you would already know that we have various services that are actually for newcomers who come to Canada. For international students, it's not necessarily so. We do have support systems, but not necessarily the same type at the same level. So we're going to talk a little bit first about what the International Student Connect project is. We will explore some of the challenges faced by the spouses of international students, and then I'll give you some available resources and provide you with some of the things that you could actually do to overcome the challenges that you're perhaps facing, or perhaps you know someone who's actually going through these challenges. Now, when we talk about the International Student Connect project, this project is funded by the Government of Ontario. It is a bilingual project, and it is coordinated by Costi Immigrant Services. Costi Immigrant Services is a community-based multicultural agency. We serve over 39,000 clients annually, and we have 17 locations in the Greater Toronto area. Needless to say that I am an employee of Costi Immigrant Services. So again, we are the coordinating agency, and how do we do that? We coordinate this project between settlement agencies and educational institutions. Currently, we have, there are 17 settlement agencies that are part of this project and 22 colleges and universities. Please do visit our website at www.internationalstudentconnect.org. There you will find all the colleges and universities that are a part of this project. We're currently showing you the agencies, the settlement agencies that are partnering with these colleges and universities. So if you are a student, or you are the spouse of a student who attends any one of these colleges, again, please do go to our website. There you'll be able to find the information on the colleges and the universities that are part of the project. I'm actually going to go through and go to the website for you, and I will show you right now how you can find this information. So this is our website. Our website is internationalstudentconnect.org. And if you go to the About Us section, when you go to the website, you will find about the project. You select about the project, and here are a list of the colleges and the universities that are a part of the project. And here are a list of the settlement agencies that are a part of this project. So please do absolutely go and visit our website, and you'll find more information about who and where you can get some services. Hopefully that helps. All right. Now, according to Statistics Canada and the Canadian Bureau of International Education, the international student population in Canada has increased from 84,000 students in 1995 to nearly 500,000 students in 2018. Needless to say, the province of Ontario has hosted the most international students in 2018, gaining 4 points year over year, increasing the percentage by 48%. So we do have the largest numbers of international students right here in Canada. this information. You can find it on StatsCan's website. It's www.statcan.gc.ca. Again, that's www.statcan.gc.ca. Okay, now we know from various studies that there has been some challenges faced by the spouses of international students. So accompanying partners are generally professionals, they're well-educated professionals in their home country, but experience and adaptation oftentimes prove to be somewhat difficult for them. Accompanying spouses are usually highly educated. They've completed university degrees, with many having completed their degrees in their home countries. They may have had their careers prior to coming here, or they think, okay, I'm going to find a new career, or I'm going to continue to study in the field that I previously was in. They have previous work experience from their home country, and they are the primary caregivers to both the children and the spouse, their partner who's attending college or university. So if you take all of this together, you can see how being in a new country and having to perhaps make some sacrifices. So perhaps give up your career, perhaps you have completed studying and you were just about to embark on a new career. Now you have to give that up or put it on hold to support your spouse. So you're doing it for your family. So how about we provide you with some resources that will help you to overcome any challenges that you may face. Some of the challenges that we've identified are language barriers and cultural conflicts, lack of social support network, psychological stresses, lack of institutional services, and the demands of parenting that can rest solely on the shoulders of the caregiver. Now, if we take a look at the language barrier, some spouses of international students, they do they speak English, but perhaps not not up to par with the Canadian language benchmark. This information that we're talking about here was researched and taken from the Canadian Journal of Higher Education. You can go to their website and review that as well. We talk about lack of social support network. We are talking about the lack of support of a family structure that would be available while you're in your home country. There are also many on-campus group structures and opportunities to network with groups of people who are like-minded. However, what we have found in our research is that these support systems are generally readily available to the international student, but not necessarily extended to the spouses of those students. Some partners receive inadequate support from their husbands, who are sometimes also struggling themselves with various adjustment issues, especially academic pressure in a very new environment. So these factors have to be taken into consideration. Psychological stresses as a result of interaction between language proficiency and lack of social adaptation. Many accompanying spouses have reported suffering from psychological stresses. And again, this information comes from the accompanying partners of international students in the Canadian Journal of Higher Education. Now, lack of institutional services, lack of relevant services and programs at the institutional level that are specifically targeted at this population also contributes to adaptation difficulties. So again, you can see how families will struggle, especially if you don't have the support of your family from back home. The language barriers includes the inability or limited use of English or French, which has the main language of Canada, limited social interaction, increased dependency on the student partner, and when we talk about psychological stresses, it also includes feelings of uselessness. Perhaps you are with your partner and your partner is also struggling, but because you don't have the social structures that you're normally accustomed to, or if you're watching this webinar today and you have a friend who would need this information, that they don't also have the information that they require or the support that they require. um, Feelings of isolation, extended periods of culture shock is also another part of the lack of social support network. There is failure to find and or keep suitable employment. This is a big one. Many international students, when they arrive in Canada, the goal is that they are going to study, and once they have completed their field of study, they would then pursue their career here in Canada. Some go back home, but some of them tend to remain in Canada. Now, when you take a spouse with you, you're also, in most cases, getting your study permit along with a student. Your spouse will be eligible for a work permit because you have the student visa. Okay. Now, the general idea is, based on most of the international students that I've spoken with, is that once they arrive in Canada, their spouse will find a job, and that employment will be able to help with the financial sustenance of the family. Unfortunately, due to the combination of barriers, sometimes the spouse is unable to maintain suitable employment, and this contributes to the challenges that are being faced by many of these spouses of international students. It is not uncommon for individuals who've moved to a new country to experience culture shock. This is not something that is new. It's not geared towards you in particular or any one particular person. Culture shock is actually normal. Culture shock is loneliness and depression. It's frustration, anger, and sometimes anxiety. You may feel nervous because you don't know how to navigate this new country that you are now a part of. You have absolutely no idea where to find resources that generally in your home country, this would have been very easy for you. And so that brings on a feeling of helplessness, which again translates sometimes into anger or anxiety. These are some of the psychological stresses that accompanying spouses may experience. There are limited institutional services, as we talked about earlier. Some institutions do not provide direct services for the spouses or partners of international students. Sometimes this results in feelings of you feel as if you're an outsider. So your partner is here, they're going to school, they are able to make friends. Your children are here. Your children are also attending school. They are also able to make friends because they have that support and they are in communication daily with other people. Whereas for the spouse is perhaps at home, not with a lot of resources, not knowing where to go. So your partner has become a part of their institution, whereas you are now the outside person because the institution does not provide a service for you. Lack of knowledge related to childcare support, and there's also limited access to information related to adaptation. Not only are the spouses and family members not eligible for government support, they're also not eligible once again for the support from the institution. So it's a combination of the lack of support for spouses. And this is where this project comes in. You're perhaps wondering how and where you will find support. I'm going to get into that shortly to provide you with some resources as to where you can go, how you can find support, and better aid you in the integration process. Now, when we look at parenting challenges, some spouses and partners experience challenges when taking care of accompanying children. There is, you have your children, you've brought them with you. There are some pros and some cons to this, okay? Um, Generally speaking, you're moving from your home country, you already, prior to making that move, you do understand, you have a very clear understanding of what it is that you are going to take on. You know that this is going to be a new place. You won't know anyone, and it will take you some time to settle. According to the Canadian Journal of Higher Education, parenting issues adds another layer to the adaptation process. Okay, now, um, children of international students and their spouses derive positive benefits. So this is not a bad thing. When they study abroad, your children are able to gain new skills. Some of them perhaps will gain new language skills. For example, perhaps they were not as fluent in either English or French. Coming to Canada will provide that opportunity for them. There are educational opportunities, there are new cultural experiences, and if your children are at the age where they're able to perhaps have a part-time position, let's say they're 16 years old, 16 to 20, there are employment opportunities for your children. So there are some positive benefits. Now you get into the challenges. Some of them could experience culture shock, lack of family support. There is loss of their own language and loss of their own cultural values as well. Just as a parent, you experience culture shock, similarly, your children could go through the very same experience. They've left their families back home. Now they're in a new country and they have to learn a new language. They're in a new country, they have to get with the new culture here. And so, how does that become a challenge for the parents? Well, this becomes a challenge for parents based on the fact that you, as a parent, you're also going through these challenges. You don't have the family support that you would have needed. And in some cases, the children will end up learning the language faster than the parent, so they're able to communicate more effectively in the new language. Not only are they able to communicate effectively in the new language, they've adapted to the new cultures. And maybe those cultures do not align with your own culture from your home country. And so you begin to struggle with making this work. How do you balance the two? How do you allow your children to grow in Canadian society, integrate and become a part of it, and maintain the value system that you're accustomed to and that they're accustomed to and that you would like them to perhaps maintain? How do you create that balance? And so this is where the struggles begin in terms of the parenting challenges that we're talking about. We also are going to look at the career roadblocks. For some parents, they will go through the issue of, what are my next steps? Before moving to Canada, many of the accompanying partners did not explore the legalities of working in Canada. So if they had not gone through the process of what will happen when I get there, then here comes the problem. So because those things were not explored, they may end up either with a complete lack of employment. Limited employment opportunities may present itself because the research was not done prior to coming to Canada. Um, or perhaps they'll find employment in a low skill job or low paying and gender stereotyped jobs. Keeping in mind that through our research, we have identified that many of the accompanying spouses are female. So here you go with, you may find you are a very well trained professional accountant and you come to Canada because you didn't quite realize that, okay, when I get there, I will perhaps need to also be enrolled in school to get accredited and get a license to practice in Canada, then when you get here, you have to either opt for a lower paying job, perhaps something like a cashier position that is going to be offered to you because these are the gender stereotyped roles. So this also adds to the frustration and the family dynamics being turned inside out. So, with that being said, now that we've identified some of the issues that um, could be faced by spouses, what we've done is we've gone ahead and we have created um, some resources for you so that this is quite easy for you to get to, moving from one level to the next. The goal of this webinar is to help you navigate the new system that you're now a part of. And we want you to be successful. So we've come up with some resources that should help you. For example, knowing what we know now about the language barriers and that this is often the case for some international student spouses, we also know that learning the commonly spoken language or languages within your community will aid in successful adaptation, whether you plan on remaining in Canada after your partner or spouse graduates from college or university. You can find information related to language support services by visiting www.canada.ca /en immigration, refugees, and citizenship. You can also go to the Ontario College's website, www.ontariocolleges.ca, or you can also visit www.settlement.org, where you'll find a wealth of information on language support. In addition to these websites, there are also private ESL programs. These are usually offered at language schools, colleges, or universities. They're mainly focused towards visitors to Canada and international students. Typically, there are some fees for these particular programs, so keep that in mind as well. If you would like to get information on French language services, French language support services are actually called CLIC. The institutions that offers CLIC are affiliated with La Cité Collégiale, and you may visit their website. They're also associated with College Boreal, and here on our screen, we have provided you with these websites. At the end of the webinar, if you like to get more information, or if these websites are not staying on screen long enough for you, we can send you a webinar summary. Please do send us an email or send us a message through the questions and answers dialog box, and I can provide you with a list of these after the webinar as well. We'll take a look at the social support resources that we have created for you. Now, network support groups can be useful in building your support resources. So, by getting involved, build and strengthen your social networks by, visiting some of these websites. There are many activities for you to get involved in. You'll meet new people. You can begin by going through www.meetup.com. There's also New Canadians. The website is www.newcanadians.tv. Now, Meetup, for example, is about connecting people who have similar interests like hobbies, career goals, and ways to identify yourself and who you want to be. And Facebook, as you know, have many different groups. You would definitely need to do some research into any of these groups before you decide to go ahead and become a part of these groups. New Canadians is the website and TV show portraying stories of recent immigrants making Canada their home. You could perhaps get some ideas from there as well. The public libraries, you can read, borrow resources, use the internet, and get services to help you settle in Ontario. Most of these services are at no cost to you. Homework clubs for students and activities for younger children. There are also workshops about employment, health, personal finances, and a lot more that you can get at the libraries. The recreation or community centers have things like ice rinks, tennis courts, they have swimming pools, Many of these, though they may not necessarily be at no cost, they are actually at very low cost. Some of them are free to use, and some of them are at reasonable prices that perhaps you'll be able to afford. You usually have to pay to attend organized programs such as swimming lessons or fitness classes. If you are someone with a disability, look for the centers that have sports or programs specifically for people with disabilities. So, again, there are lots and lots of uh, resources that you can find that will help you to gather some personal and some you can gain some personal friendships and in time build that network. You can attend free networking or community events. These events are great to make professional connections, but there are also cultural events hosted by libraries and community centers where you can meet people who share your own interests as well. Tools such as Eventbrite can help you find events near you. So definitely check that out. And you can also check out your local library or the rec center that is closest to you. Ontario's after school programs are also very good. Please do visit www.mtc.gov.on.ca for information on Ontario's after school programs. These are programs that could help you in terms of finding support for your children. We want to look at mental health support services as well. Our mental health is quite critical to our success. And there are some days when you are feeling great and some days when you're doing not so great. If you find that you have found yourself in any of these situations, perhaps you're feeling stress or you're not really sure that this is stress, you can't identify that it is stress, but you have feelings of loneliness, you're depressed, frustrated, perhaps you're having feelings of anxiety, any of these symptoms that are listed here, these websites can provide you with additional information on places that you can go to find help. Settlement.org is a wonderful website with a wealth of information. Please visit www.settlement.org. You can go to Mental Health Helpline, and you can also visit Canadian Mental Health Association. There you'll find information that will help you. You can get help with your mental health from professional services, and many of these are at no cost as well. So please do some research on that. Employment is a really big one. Finding employment can be satisfying for both the international student and their spouses. It gives you some sense of purpose and independence, financial independence, as well as just personal independence. Builds your confidence to know that you get a paycheck at the end of the 2-week period, and you're able to do whatever it is that you want. You can visit the malls, you can take your children shopping. You don't have to wait for your spouse to provide that support, and the money that you brought with you here in Canada can remain in your savings account as your security blanket. Go to www.jobbank.gc.ca. JobBank is an employment website operated by Employment and Social Development Canada. It provides an online database of job listings in Canada. Canada's Best is another one. Canada's Best, diversity employers recognizes employers across Canada that have exceptional workplace diversity and inclusiveness programs. So visit their website as well. Employment Ontario. Employment Ontario provides services through various Employment Ontario locations across Ontario. Costi Immigrant Services is also a part of the Ontario employment system. So if you are looking for work, seek us out, go online, look up our website, and you can find a location close to you. Remember, when I first started, I talked about the fact that we do have 17 locations right across Ontario, across the GTA. As long as you have a work permit, a valid work permit, you are eligible for employment supports through Employment Ontario centers. Newcomers Seeking Jobs is another website that you can go to, and Ontario Skills Passport is also another resource for you. Childcare services, we talked about the fact that the childcare services, because you perhaps are not familiar with the system around you, you're not able to find adequate childcare support. Visit www.edu.gov.on.ca. This is a government website, and childcare support services are available through this website. Now, Ontario's child and family programs are found here. They include 4 programs in communities across Ontario and is funded by the province for the early years. These centers are located in every community across Ontario. The goal of these programs are to enhance the quality and consistency of child and family programs across Ontario. Um, what they're hoping to achieve is that um, the expectation is that expecting parents, caregivers, and home child care providers have high access to high quality services that supports them in their role. So we've got the early year centers, we've got parenting and family literacy, and we've got child care resource centers. There's also Better Beginnings, Better Future that you can find here. Definitely take a look at these resources. I guarantee you, knowing that you have support will help you in the integration process. It will not be seamless, but it will be less stressful, and you won't feel as if you're, just in a strange country, or perhaps you're swimming in an ocean and you actually cannot swim. Here are the tools that will help you through any of these. Okay. Now, I'd like to take a look at overcoming the challenges that you may face in terms of your work. If you're looking for work, we know that these are huge barriers that, you want to find employment, you want to be able to contribute to your family's success. And so you must overcome these challenges. Everything that we've talked about from the beginning leading up to here, um, this is how you're going to get through this, okay? So many international students, the goal is to, once they arrive in Canada, complete their studies and become a permanent Canadian resident. This status is oftentimes the long-term goal for many international students and their spouses. So, one of the things that you want to do, the first step to getting Canadian work experience is to get your work permit. So, you want to apply for your work permit, because if the long-term goal is to become a permanent resident, then you will need to sustain yourself here. And work experience is critical in this process. So if you have not yet applied for the work permit, ensure that you are eligible for it. If you've accompanied your partner, apply for your work permit. The next short-term goal should be that if you're not very fluent in either of the languages that are spoken around you, for example, English or French, enroll in a language class. Remember that there may be a small fee associated with this, but I guarantee you every penny counts and it will be worth it. Volunteering is another avenue to acquire Canadian work experience. So explore the possibility of volunteering. Try to volunteer with an organization that has an established program that provides things such as a record of volunteer work and reference letters once you've completed your volunteering stint. Once you've accomplished your short-term goals, you can then work on getting to the long-term goals. Okay, so short-term goals would be to apply for your work permit, enroll in language classes if this is a barrier for you. If you're finding that you're not finding a job, then and the barrier is that you don't have Canadian work experience, please do explore volunteering. That will give you the work experience that you can put on your resume when you look for a job that will pay you, and then you seek out your employment. Your long-term goal would be then, after you've accomplished all of the short-term goals, to find jobs in your field. once you have acquired the job in your field. Because after your spouse has completed their studies, then your work permit would be the same as their postgraduate work permit. So now you need to find a job in your field and apply for your permanent residence, if that is what your ultimate goal is. Now, if you don't already know about work permits, when you come with your spouse, spouses and common law partners of international students in Canada can apply for an open work permit. The work permit is valid for the same period of time as the international student's study permit. There are some eligibility criteria that must be met, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the slide. So an open work permit is a work permit that is not job specific. So it means that you can work anywhere. You are not tied to a particular job. You do not require a job offer letter to get the open work permit. Your spouse or your partner, we're talking about the international student here, must be a full-time student. And keep in mind that there is an open work permit fee. So in most cases, you will have to pay the fee at the same time that you pay the work permit fee. Okay? So the process of for the application is quite simple. There are two ways to apply for the work permit. You can do it online or you can do it on paper. Okay? Um, I want to talk a little bit about the eligibility criteria again for the open work permit. Now, remember that the international student must be a full-time student. They must be in a public post-secondary school, such as a college or university, or in Quebec, it's the abbreviation is CEGEP. If you go visit the website, CIC's website, then you'll find the full name for that. Private college level schools in Quebec, or Canadian private school that can legally award degrees under provincial law. So, for example, a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, and have a valid study permit. Okay, the application process, again, quite simple. If you need additional information, please do visit our website. It's www.internationalstudentconnect.org, and you can find us on settlement.org as well. We do have our fact sheets. From our fact sheets, you're able to find additional information that is quite easy to come by. You also want to improve your community connections. Okay, so consider doing the following. Again, I cannot stress enough about the language classes. Take language classes, visit the local community centers, and interact with people outside of your cultural community. Many people are guilty of this. It is easier, it is more comfortable for you to be friends with the people within your community. Chances are, if you are within the international student population, the same amount of knowledge that you and your spouse have is the same amount of knowledge that the other international student will have, or their wife will have, or their partner will have, or their husband will have. So, try to find connections outside of your cultural communities and become familiar with different things around you. Increase support systems. Strong social support systems are critical for your success, and this is not a joke. This is actually your reality. So, visiting the local libraries and settlement agencies is a way to increase your support system. Um, with our experience in the settlement sector, we know that newcomers who are proficient in English or French have more success finding meaningful employment in Canada. So I've provided you with those resources. Um, Building local and work related networks are also very important. It's another important part of the success planning. If you're, when you're pursuing your career goals in Canada, although there are positive and negative aspects of networking, the reality is that many Canadians find work through their networks of personal contacts. In Canada, places of worship often provide social services. For example, they might organize food or clothing for people in need or help newcomers settle in their communities. Many community agencies can help you find a place of worship that is familiar to you. Okay? Form or join local playdate groups in your community for your children. What is a playdate group? You may have 3 or 4 families that will get together. Perhaps mom or dad will take the children to a particular place and meet with other parents who have children of the same age. This gives your children the opportunity to create friends, have this friendship, and then they also have their own support system as well. So these are really good things. Get involved through volunteering. Again, I cannot stress this any more than I already have. Volunteering is generally one of the best ways for you to gain Canadian work experience if you do not already have it. Also, volunteering benefits both others and yourself. It can provide you with the opportunity to help other people and may also be the gateway to finding meaningful employment. Volunteering gives you the opportunity to learn new skills, continue to develop your existing skills, practice English, and meet new people. You'll be able to build new networks, gain Canadian experience, and learn more about the work environment in your community. Here are a list of websites that we've put together for you: Volunteer Canada, Spark Ontario, and Ontario Volunteer Centre. These are all very useful websites that will help you to get to where you need to be. Explore available formal supports. So there are some supports that are out there in terms of the institution that your spouse is attending. So it will be useful to explore the kinds of career, employment, and other support programs and services your partner's university or college provides for international student families. Some of them do. Some campuses have campus-based services, and it may be limited. Some of them may be limited to your spouse, whereas others may extend to the partners of the spouses. So take advantage of that. Take the time to do some research. There are many international students with spouses throughout Canada and Ontario, believe me. Many institutions have been making new policies to change the existing policies they have in order for them to accommodate spouses. Remember, we talked earlier that the numbers have increased so much that this has to be looked at as well. So please do find out what is there for you. Create a transition plan. The transition plan will help you to keep track of the things that you need to do, schedules that you need to set, deadlines. Using the ISC resources, you can find this transition plan. Again, remember, I talked about the fact that through the International Student Connect project, we are helping international students as well as their spouses. And on our website, you will find the participating educational institutions as well as the settlement agencies that are a part of this project. Through this project, you're able to get services at no cost to you and your family that is not otherwise available through federally funded government services. So this is what this project does for you. Visit our website at www.internationalstudentconnect.org. You may find us on www.settlement.org's website. On our website, you're able to find the transition plan. This transition plan will help you to keep track of the things that you need, especially if you are planning on becoming a permanent resident after graduation. open a transition plan. It is private. We don't have access to seeing what you have created. It is your personal information, and you are able to track the things that you need to do. You will get reminders. You can schedule deadline dates and prompt it to remind you that these are the things that I need to do on this particular day. And finally, if you need to contact us, please do feel free to, again, visit our website or call us at 1-844-871-4567, or you may email us at isc@costi.org. Thank you once again for joining us today for today's webinar. And if you have any questions, please send us your questions, and we will return a response to you within 24 to 48 hours. Thank you.